there, Carrie Rhoades here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and another stamping video. Today is episode 4 of my November Stamp Set of the Month series featuring the Cocoa Stand stamp set by Avery Elle. So I've already shown you 3 fun ideas with the Hot Cocoa Stand stamp set, and today I'm kind of combining those 3 ideas into one long card. And I'm going to be playing with watercolor pencils, which is something that's somewhat new to me. Like, I've played around with it before, but today I colored 37 images for this card. So I did a lot of watercolor with watercolor pencils, and I can't wait to talk to you about that as well. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and make sure to leave a comment, because I have a giveaway that I will be raffling off for anyone who leaves a comment. I will be giving away a mystery pack of cards that I have made, because today's card, I don't think I can part with it. I put so much time and effort into this card. I really want to send it to a loved one. So, not that I don't love you guys. I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching my videos and liking and giving me such nice comments. I greatly appreciate it. And that means it's time to give away last week's card. It was a super cute card with pink and hot cocoa and a mousse. Like, oh, I really loved that card too. So the name of the winner of last week's card will appear across the screen right now. Congratulations. And make sure you tune back in, because I will be starting a brand new Stamp Set of the Month series for December next week. Can you believe it's December? It's crazy. Okay, so now we are going to dive into some watercoloring with watercolor pencils. First things first, let's stamp out all the images that I need for the front of this card. This card is very long. The finished card ends up being 4 inches by 9.5 inches, fits in a legal sized envelope. And like I said, 37 images, but some of them are from the Polar Peekaboo Pals stamp set, also from Avery Elle, because I wanted 3 different critters to fit into the 3 different stands that I'm going to be putting on the front of this card. So I'll stamp out this panel, and then I'll actually have 2 other panels of stamped images, all with VersaFine Onyx black ink onto Canson watercolor paper. So here's the first one, and then I rearranged my images and stamped a second panel, because I'm doing a lot of duplicates, like 3 of each image, and only some of them do I stamp one of, like the critters. So one of them was already colored because that was my practice piece. So here's the pencils that I'm using, the Arteza Expert watercolor pencils. I have the set of 72, and I've been watching a lot of watercolor pencil videos by Sandy Allnock. She is an expert colorist. I really enjoy her videos, and watching her do this kind of coloring with watercolor pencils has inspired me to create these projects today. So you can see here that I'm coloring with a light green, and then I'm coming back in and doing some shadowing with a darker green. And I'm kind of coloring, it looks like I'm coloring in the whole image, but I am leaving some white space. It's really simple to do this coloring. It's just a bit of scribbling, really, and it goes really quick, and it is pretty easy to do. And then once you have the color down with your pencil, you're really laying down like dry paint. Do you remember those books we used to color in when we were little that had like the dots, and you would just paint over them with a wet brush? That's what this is like, but you're laying down the color and then activating it with your brush. So here's a few things that I learned and that I did on my painting. I know there's other ways to do it, but I'll just share the way that I did it. So I like to activate the ink or the paint with the lightest color first, and then move towards the darker color. And then I'm pushing that darker color towards the line, because what you're really doing is picking up that pencil with your watercolor brush. And so you don't want to pull it away from the line, because you would remove some of that paint. So I'm pushing towards the line, activating that darker color, and then I can kind of blend it into that lighter color. So that's kind of what I learned. Start with the lightest color when blending and work towards the darker. And then also, I like to clean my brush off in between each of these planks. Otherwise, I'm picking up some of that paint and carrying it over into that next area. So I don't want that to be muddied up or have a dark spot where I don't want it. So I'm cleaning it off with, I have 2 jars there. One's dirty water, and then I blot my brush off, and then I pick up some clean water and spread out that paint. So this stand here is my green stand. I'm going to do one in each of the 3 colors. So red, green, and white for my background. And I just love how it turned out. I think I love coloring with the watercolor pencils. I had so much fun doing this. I really felt like I could have colored more after I painted all of these. So I think that you should give it a try if you haven't done very much of watercolor pencil coloring. It's just a different medium than watercolor pencils or markers, and I really enjoyed it. I'm not ready, I don't feel, to start just watercoloring. I feel like I get a little bit more control with the watercolor pencils versus if I were to just watercolor these. So I really enjoyed it, and I feel like it's a medium that I will use time and time again. I really loved it. So here I'm doing the little Christmas tree, and I tried to make this one a little bit darker by coloring both of the colors of green over the top of each other, and I really love how that turned out. So I'll just color most of these off screen and just touch on a few more things. This stand is the one that I wanted to be white, so I'm outlining it with just one light shade of gray. And then for the painting, I'm using my brush just to soften out those pencil lines and make it more of a shadow on each of the planks for this stand. And then I also end up doing the snow for all of the stands with a very light blue color, and that looks really awesome next to this gray. It turned out great. So you'll see that on the finished images. And then for the presents, I wanted them to be simple because my card is so busy. So I'm using each of my 2 colors, so 2 shades of red, 2 shades of green, 2 shades of blue to make a red present, a blue present, and a green present. And then you can see here when I am coloring over that watercolor pencil, it just really activates it and brightens it up and brings it to life. Here's another example of why you want to clean the brush off in between. So my light, each light has a white spot left at the bottom. If I did not clean my brush off in between and I carried over paint from the previous light bulb, I would lose that spot of white at the bottom. So also, once you know what you're going to be coloring all your images, then you can go ahead and do all of the pencil coloring and then come back and do all of the blending out with water. And you could really leave this and come back to it. It will work after it's sat for days. So if you don't get to your painting right away, you can always come back to it. Now that all of my images have been painted and die cut, I'm going to be stamping across the top of each of these stands. So this red stand, I'm stamping with the words Hot Cocoa. All these images are in the Cocoa Stand stamp set. And I'm stamping that with clear ink and embossing it with white powder. So once that gun is hot, I can go ahead and melt that powder. And then I love the look of the white across the red. So cool. All right, so then we'll switch out our stamps, and the green stand is going to say sledding. So again, stamping that with clear pigment ink and embossing it with white powder. I did treat all of these with an anti-static powder tool before doing any stamping so that my powder will only stick to the stamped area. And now for the white stand, I didn't want to emboss with white powder, so I'll pour that white powder back into the jar and bring out some black powder. So this one is going to say Tree Farm, stamping that with the clear pigment ink and then embossing it with black powder. And this, I love the look of this. It's such a perfect stand for trees. Love it. Okay, for my background, I have a piece of Denim Days cardstock cut to 4 inches by 9.5, and then I'm going to be splattering on some Distress Oxide ink in Salty Ocean. You can see there I just watered down that ink so it was easy to splatter, but I was getting my splatter everywhere, so I put a piece of paper to protect the rest of my desk, and I just went to town splattering across this entire panel with this light blue color on the dark blue. I love how it looks. And then I'm going to clean that up. I'll bring in some white acrylic paint and thin that out with water as well, and then splatter that all across my card and continue that snowy scene for my background. I did quite a bit of this white on there and got some larger drops and some smaller drops, but if you want the smaller drops, you just want to make sure that you use a smaller paintbrush. This is a number 2 brush, the same that I used for my watercolor painting. Now I have the Avery Elle Clear Shimmer Spray. I'm not watering this one down at all. I just sprayed a little bit on my glass mat there, and then I'm splattering that across the panel for a little bit of shimmer. And that will complete all the splatter for this card. And now I'm going to die cut a border for the bottom of the card. But you can see this border is not the same size as the bottom of my card. So when I die cut this, I'm going to move my plate up so it does not cut the bottom edge. And then I have a 3-sided die cut piece. I will take the die off, reposition it, line it up with the scallops, and then run it through my die cut machine again, but not cutting the top end. So now I have a very long scalloped piece. But here's the funny part. This does not actually end up showing in my finished card. So I could have left it off. I went ahead and used distress ink to ink the edge of that in that Salty Ocean, and then I'm doing some black soot over the top edge of my card base. Here you can see I'm gluing on that snowy bank, and I'll trim off the edges so that it's flush with each end, and I guess there's a few spots that it shows up in the end, but you could forgo this if you put on as many images as I do. So now you can see all my little die cut pieces. I'm going to just start laying things out like a little puzzle, figuring out where I want all the things to go, and I'll start gluing all of that together. So the little walrus will go in the hot cocoa stand, and then he gets a row of lights glued onto his stand in green, and I wanted him to be holding this mug of cocoa. So when I glue on his flippers, they're going to go to the side, and you can see it almost looks like he's leaning out of the stand and handing someone that mug of hot cocoa. My story behind this card is that it's a little Christmas festival. Maybe it's like we have a light festival here at our botanical gardens, and I could just see people having different stands there, and you could purchase a tree and go sledding and get some hot cocoa to warm up, and maybe some of these things would be for charity, and I just think it would be like a really fun night out with the family, and you could visit all these different booths. So I'm gluing those onto the card now that they all have their little paws and fins and flippers, and I really felt like the penguin should totally be in the sledding stand, because in all the penguin movies you see the little penguins sliding on their belly, so of course he had to be in the sledding stand. And then the fox, he's from the forest, so he brings the trees, and the walrus is just cute, so he's in the cocoa stand. Yeah. So here you can see I'm gluing on all their little things that shows you what's available at their stand. And then I also did a bunch of those little bulb ornaments and star ornaments to decorate their stands with. So I'll glue those on as well. And it just makes such a cute scene. And I feel like this card just has a lot to look at. And here I'm putting a little sled and putting some trees on top of it, which was inspired by a fellow stamper. Her name is Cindy, and she's been making some cards with this stamp set. And one of her cards had a sled with a present and a tree on it. So this is a little nod to her inspiration, And I thank you so much for that idea. So cute. All right, I'll finish this out by popping up some more of those images all around my stands, and you can see how my snowy bank is pretty much covered. Right at the bottom of each of the stands, a little bit of the white does show. So it's there, but you can't really see the snow bank, the little scalloped part. So yeah, I probably could have left that off, but it's all right. Now you know how to make a really long scalloped border, and there you have it. That pretty much finishes up the card. I even got the little candy canes on there, and I feel like it is just so festive, all the Christmassy colors. So here is my card base. This is a 8-inch by 9.5-inch piece of white cardstock that I scored at 4 inches, and my card front will fit on there perfectly. There is no white border. I couldn't make it any smaller or those stands would not have fit on this card. So it is the entire size of the card. Pressing that down, and then I brought in my white gel pen to add a little bit more snow over the area that I used the black soot distress oxide. Some of that snow really faded out, and I just thought maybe I would add some of that back in. And then I also did the white gel pen to create some highlights, but that was off camera, so you'll see that in the finished picture. Then I took a black gel pen to give the walrus some little dots on his muzzle. Let's call it a muzzle. I'm not sure. And then I stamped Happy Holidays from the Polar Peekaboo Pals stamp set on the inside to complete this card. I hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't tried watercolor pencils on watercolor paper, I highly recommend it. Super fun. And if you are interested in any of the supplies that I've used, I have linked them for you below. You can also see this project on my blog and on my Instagram, so come follow me over there too. And be sure to leave a comment so you can win a mystery pack of cards that I created. All right, happy stamping. Bye.